Kyle Rittenhouse defense claims that Apple's AI manipulates footage when using the pinch to zoom feature. Pinch to zoom feature, you all know what that is. So with this article here comes from techspot.com, and it's actually all over the news. I found lots of examples of it. Um, Basically, what they're saying was, and this is the quote: iPads, which are made by Apple, have an artificial intelligence in them that allows things to be viewed through 3 dimensions and sick logarithms, not algorithms, but logarithms.
Yeah.
It uses artificial intelligence or their logarithms to create what they believe is happening. So it isn't actually enhanced video. This is Apple iPad's programming creating what it thinks is there, not necessarily what is there. This is interesting because this was raised by Rittenhouse's defense as a reason why the jury should not have seen video of the defendant doing what he did uh, up in Kenosha. And what was interesting to me was it seemed to be pulled entirely out of the attorney's ass based upon nothing. And it would seem to me that the defense attorney would have some burden to establish that um, there was some merit to this, because why couldn't they just make up any old thing? I've never heard of anything like this in a trial before, and I've allegedly done trials before. I wonder how I would have responded had some of the opposing parties in my cases had alleged that the document, the digital evidence that I had to present was somehow doctored by a secret algorithm or what have you. So that's what this is about, and of course the court. You should all know this by now. The court said it's up to the prosecution to prove that the pinch to zoom did not alter the image, and
Mm.
ultimately they didn't. The judge did not allow it, did not allow that, and so they had to show the footage on a giant screen. And if I'm not mistaken, the jury saw it, but Rittenhouse claimed that the image in question was too small for him to really see what's going on, and so that just the case just proceeded uh, with that being the outcome and that being the ruling. Um, I don't understand. There's been a bunch of things that are strange about this trial. I mean, every trial is unique. No one does everything perfectly. Forget about Law and Order or any of these other programs. It's not quite as polished. These are human beings that are practicing the law. But from what I've seen, between the judge's ringtone to
Mm.
the shouting matches to maybe the brazen behavior of the prosecutor to a lot of other things, this is an unusual trial, politically charged, and an unusual trial. Any other thoughts out there besides mine on this?
Yeah, this is just a load of BS, and this is obviously this judge trying to save this guy because, come on, you could present any conspiracy. We have seen. Have you seen that video of the camera Nikon P900 that zooms into the moon? We do have zoom technology. It's Asian by today's standards, and these guys are saying, no, 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 no. iPhone created a whole new type of artificial intelligence only to change the way how we zoom instead of using this ancient technology that every single cell phone has. And the judge goes and says, oh yeah, I totally believe that. That doesn't sound crazy at all. This is obviously BS. This judge reminds me of those policemen who were in favor of Trump protesters during the coup d'etat that there was at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
It's the same. You are supporting a political side, you're not doing your job properly, and you're just looking for excuses. That's what I see. That's what I feel. I may be wrong.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to that really quickly before I hear from Nate and Cindy, only because you mentioned something. I am not surprised that the judge is an older gentleman, okay?
Mm. Hmm.
Um, and it's not always the case, but I have had experiences, I can say it this way. I've had experiences with judges having very out of date knowledge about technology, and this is an example where clearly the judge was maybe out of his depth. Let's be honest. Like at best, the judge was out of his depth as far as the technology is concerned. At worst, he's corrupt, right? But at best, this judge owes it to the citizens of Wisconsin and everyone to know how pinch and zoom works a little bit, right? To understand that there's some legitimacy to this technology. And at the very least, not issue a ruling, take it under advisement, perhaps, as opposed to just shooting from the hip on this. Um, Nate,
Yeah,
Cindy, thoughts?
Sydney,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Nate.
Okay. This isn't the only wacky shit that's been going on in this court. Like he made an off-color comment about Asian food coming from the docks. I don't know if you guys saw that. He referred to so the way that they did jury selection is they allowed Kyle Rittenhouse to select 6 names basically out of a hat. So that out of the pool of 18 potential jurors, he picked the 6 that would be disqualified. Now, this judge has an odd policy of letting the defendant pick it out because one time when he let a court clerk do it, the court clerk picked a black. That's how he said it, picked a black. So, I mean, that's not really how people who aren't racist refer to people of color. Like, it's not a this, a that. I looked into the Asian comment and I didn't think it was all that bad. But yeah, this is the problem with having a 76-year-old judge who, you know, to me comes off as a bit of a Luddite. And the other thing that I find pretty telling is that just today, the defense moved for a mistrial without prejudice because of a video formatting error. Did anybody see that? So they sent
No.
the prosecution sent a video to the defense that its original form was something like 11 megabytes, and then when the defense got it, it had been compressed to about 3 megabytes, just because of the conversion from going from an Android phone to an Apple or something like that. And so they're trying to get the whole case dismissed with, I think it's with prejudice, basically meaning that he can't be tried again. Based
what
on like, what do they have to hide? Like, why are they trying to get this video discluded from evidence? I mean, that's pretty telling to me. What do you think, Cindy?
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that they're desperate because they know they're going to lose. They know they're not on the right side of history. They know that, so they're desperate. And but what scares me here is that it might set up a precedent. I mean, if you know you're losing your trial, then what prevents you from putting another stupid conspiracy and then say, yeah, the defense has to prove my conspiracy is not right. And the second thing is that the judge, he should be able to understand what shifting the burden of proof is, and he shouldn't be allowed to do something like that. I don't know. It's very very weird for me to see something like that happening. Um, but yeah, the fact that judges are often elected, I think that's a problem.
See,
yeah,
well,
okay,
the
Johnny, go
problem
ahead.
with well, the problem with judges being appointed, it creates a whole other slew of problems, right? Because then it's one step removed from the populace selecting what kind of judiciary they have. I mean, it's not without its problems to elect. Uh, it's not without its problems for appointing. I wonder if there's not some sort of, I don't know, a panel. It sounds like like Communist Party politics, where the party selects certain people for a vote, and then they would have the populace elect one. But if there be some sort of qualification, this is not an entry level judge. This judge, if my understanding, is quite experienced. I think just what we're
The
seeing here.
most, I think. I think he's the
Yeah.
longest standing member of the bench.
Yeah, and a judge of that age, let's not be age discriminatory here. That's not unusual for a judge to be in that age range. Um, and what's also interesting is I find that, and it's hard to say this. I mean, I don't practice, never have practiced criminal law. Well, I have a little bit, and I won't go into it. But the judge's task is to ensure that the procedures are followed with a strict level of care, because of you are taking away potentially someone's liberty forever, or their life in some cases. And so even conservative judges can err on the side of um, the accused in a case like this. But what I'm seeing here is just a bunch of things that seem to not add up to me. When you have such a politically charged trial, why wouldn't you have cleared all this stuff ahead of time to make sure that things go as smoothly as possible? And some bizarro thing like that, I just wonder why that wasn't addressed a long time ago, as far as, authenticating all the exhibits.
Yeah, does the prosecution not have to share their evidence with the defense? I'm
Yes.
pretty sure that's a thing.
Yes.
So,
I
I would think that they would have, or maybe they had this prepared just to throw things off the rails and cast doubt onto what little actual evidence there is.
Well, I just wonder
yeah,
if this was discussed before at the pretrial hearing, at the pretrial conference. Wasn't there objections to the exhibits? I mean, things,
Yeah.
what the exhibits are going to be ahead of time.
Yeah, that's what
There's
I'm
not,
saying.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Teo, what did you have to say about this? You
yeah,
had
no,
some
I
follow
just
up.
think the worst of people. And this judge, how is the pronunciation? Scruder? Is it? Am I butchering his last name? Anyway, he
Schroeder.
demanded the prosecution. Oh, sorry,
Schroeder.
Schroeder. Oh, Schroeder. Judge Schroeder, I'm going to quote from the article here. He demanded the prosecution to bring in an expert to testify, but he didn't allow them to adjourn to find someone before Rittenhouse was cross-examined, and he demanded that the prosecutors, or well, suggested them to find an expert during a 20-minute recess. Yeah, don't go and have lunch. Find an expert right now if you want an expert in here to demonstrate that the defense is not making stuff up. And that doesn't sound like something logical for me. It doesn't sound something honest to do. And as you are saying, you already knew about this. Why didn't you warn people that, hey, if there is a kind of crazy conspiracy talking about a new, never seen before artificial intelligence creating images, why didn't he say anything about that? Or the other guys? This sounds like the plot of a movie, of a bad movie, 80s movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and where do you find an expert on that matter? I mean, how can you say, okay, who am I going to choose? Who knows that technology, but who won't be partial? I mean, that takes time.
Well,
You can just do it like this.
you
Obviously, in
can't
the
do.
same place where you can find artificial intelligence able to create images instead of zooming.
You can find that expert. It's not that hard to find it. You just, when you have an expert witnesses are known well in advance of trial. There's a scheduling order. There's time for the expert to produce a report, and then a rebuttal report to be produced. There's usually time for a deposition of that expert, and then that would take place months in advance of trial. And I'm just wondering what the heck what the heck is going on where this issue is raised, because I'm sure that the prosecutor's office, um, the DA has experts on staff, or people that they can bring in who are experts in maybe forensic video technology or something like that. But that I guess that didn't happen. But again, a witness, like an expert like that, is not going to be ready to go at the drop of a hat. So that's why I just thought it's very unusual. I mentioned other things that were unusual about this, um, where the judge and the defendant, the accused, and I believe his attorney were looking at a video, and the judge is sitting immediately next to Rittenhouse, looking at the video. I saw photos of that. I know I've been in situations before where I've been in a trial and I've had the person on the other side immediately next to me, right next to the judge. It's usually out of the presence of the jury when we're looking at something together to try to figure something out, because you don't want to create an impression that the judge doesn't like a person on one side or the other, or that they do like somebody on the other side or the other. But apparently this judge thought it was fine. I talked about the sorry, my dog is whining right now. I mentioned the ringtone. Did you all hear about the ringtone? How
Mm-hmm.
Lee
Mhm.
Greenwood's "Proud to Be an American," I think it was, played. Or I'm sorry, that's not the name of the song. That's the refrain. But that was Trump's wrestling song where he comes onto the stage.
And also on Veterans Day, he called out in open court. He asked, "Are there any veterans in here?" And the one person who happened to be a veteran was a witness for the defense. And then the
Mhm.
judge calls for a round of applause
Yeah.
for this defense witness. Like, if that isn't prejudicial, I don't know what is.
It's
It's
I've
wacky.
yeah.
It's crazy town.
A
It looks
trial of
dirty.
this sort should be stop. A trial of this sort. So I don't know if you can hear. I don't know if the mic's picking it up, but a trial of this kind should be, juicy in the details, but the procedure shouldn't be exciting. The procedure should be boring, ordinary stuff. I've had so many trials where nothing happens. It happens outside the presence of the jury, and maybe I got yelled at. The jury didn't see that, or
Yeah.
some other instance. I had heard about an instance where the prosecutor was yelled at because he had broke the motion in limine. Now, I can talk about a motion in limine briefly, but basically the prosecutor started getting into some questions about some questioning in front of the jury that was previously ordered by the court to not be discussed without first approaching the bench. The prosecutor did get into that because he believed that the direct examination had, they call it opening the door, had opened the door to that line of questioning, and the judge went off on the prosecutor. Now, admittedly, if the door were opened by certain testimony, then the prosecutor should have said, "May I approach the bench?" And then the defense and the prosecution approach the bench and have a discussion. It's like, "Okay, Your Honor, he opened the door on this topic, and I want to get into it." And I think the prosecutor knew full well. And I'm just wondering why on earth did the prosecutor not take the care to do that? As an experienced litigating attorney, to do that. You don't want to get yelled at by the judge for something like that, right? Whenever the judge yells at you, you want it to be because the judge was dozing off and not paying attention, or is confused, not because you did something wrong. So, anything
Yeah.
else about the trial that you thought was askew?
I mean, I think the whole self-defense claim is absolutely ridiculous. So you can be like, "Oh, this guy threw a paper bag at me, so I shot him 5 times. Guys, I feared for my life." Like, I was
Yeah.
reading about the instruction to the jury. I think it was like a 5 or a 6-page document on what reasonable force and what the self-defense claim really, how that can be established. And there is a reasonable force doctrine. I wasn't aware of that. I'm being from Canada. I just assume that in the States it's just shoot first, ask questions later, right? But I don't see how any reasonable person could think that Kyle Rittenhouse shot a man 5 times in self-defense. Like, once, okay, twice, maybe. 5 times? Like, what? That's not
Yeah.
No way.
self-defense, man. That's you being an undisciplined, belligerent asshole that went there looking for trouble.
By the time
Totally.
this episode airs, I might be wrong, but I expect that we'll have a verdict. And honestly, until I watch the entire proceedings, and I have not, we have to trust that we might have our predictions. We might see these things. We might think that the system is broken or corrupt, or that the people involved are twisting it for their own political ends. That might all be true, but you might still get a fair outcome because the jurors in that box are going to be observing the evidence. And so I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I can say that I don't like the kid. Those pictures of him with the Proud Boys smiling. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
dude. You killed
Yeah.
somebody. It's not cool. No matter what happened in self-defense thing, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Things happen. You know, I don't know what the hell you were doing there with your fucking gun, but things do happen. You should be sad about this for the rest of your goddamn life, you little shit. You know, not posing with a bunch of alt-right people. Let's leave it at
And
that.
there shouldn't be people supporting this guy. I mean, that's painful to see. So painful and sad.
Just remain neutral. Wait for the system to give an outcome. Don't support this kid. You don't know. I mean, dunking on him, I suppose, is the other side of it. But the fact is, people are dead. Some kid who had no business being there shot some people in self-defense. Kind of hard for me to believe it. But
Uh,
I don't know.
yeah,
Cindy,
I just
be the
saw
last word.
a meme yesterday. It said, if Rittenhouse went in there because it was so dangerous, then how come the only fatalities that night are the people he killed? And I
Yep.
found that pretty relevant because
Yeah.
the entire defense of his position relies on the idea that he went there because there was some kind of danger, and then he got in danger and then had to strike back. But he didn't have to be there in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it wasn't even his state, right?
No, I think it was from
Yeah.
Illinois, I believe. Yeah, again, we talked about this. I saw some commentary in the news. If this was a black kid who would cross state lines, bringing an illegal gun to
Oh yeah.
look at a protest, I mean, it would make the news, right? But we wouldn't be there. Would I even fail to think there'd be a wellspring of support from let's say it was to protect Black Lives Matter protesters, and he shot some people. Let's just say, I don't think that I don't know. You know what? I guess I'm cynical about that. The public is so polarized. Let's call it what it is. The kid went there looking for a fight, and
Exactly.
he found it,
Yep, he
and
got it.
shit hit the fan because I mean, what would you do if you showed up to a protest and there's a kid like coming at you with a gun? I mean, I don't know. I dread to find out what happened, and maybe we'll know by this Sunday, and it'll start I hope not another round of protests that turn bad, and there's copycat Rittenhouses out there. But anyway, that's my thoughts on this one. It's really frustrating to be right here on the edge of perhaps a verdict being read out, but we can't say anymore because we really have no idea what's going to happen. Stranger things have happened than a conviction or an acquittal in a case like this. So by Sunday, we'll see.
Yeah,
All,
Chauvin got convicted, so there's hope.
yeah, maybe, and then of course, what's the punishment? That's another one too. We'll be living this one for a little bit.